Welcome back. So in today's lesson, we're going to do something extremely easy, and all we have to do is to find the volume of a rectangular prism. So let's just get started. The cross section of a rectangular prism is a rectangle, as we all know. All of the faces are rectangles and opposite pairs of faces are exactly the same. Okay. Now the volume of a rectangular prism is calculated using the formula volume equals to length times the breadth times the height. In other words, you find the area of the base by working out length times breadth, and then you times it by the height. So the volume of a rectangular prism, you're actually applying the same formula in the previous lesson, which is volume is equal to A times H. Right? In this case, the A is basically the area of the rectangle at the bottom. Alright, so let's just get started. I'm going to pick some easy questions like always, and then we'll get to some harder ones at the end. So let's just do question 2 first, just to give you a warm-up. Alright, so how do you find the volume of this rectangular prism? Well, remember, you can just use this formula, or you can just use this formula. It doesn't really matter. So I'm just going to use the formula that's on the sheet. Volume equals to length times breadth times height. So in this case, volume equals to length, which is 20, times the breadth, which is 24, times by the height, which is 7. And just to make reference to the previous lessons, this part, okay, this is actually the area. It's the area of the base, right? 20 times the 24. All right, and well, as you already know, this is the H, right? So it's how do you work this out? Well, you can use your calculator. So that's what I'm going to do. All right, here we go. So we just have to do 20 times 24 times 7, which is 3360. Now make sure you write the units, okay? So what's the unit? The unit is centimeters cubed. All right, so I'm not going to go through any more questions in A because they're all basically the same stuff. So hopefully you should be able to do A. Now B is basically the same as A, but the only difference is now they're actually going to give you the dimensions, which is somewhat even easier. So I'm just going to do, say, B question 1, okay? Use the given dimensions to calculate the volume of each rectangular prism. So they give you the length, they give you the breadth, they give you the height. And if you still remember, volume equals to length times breadth times height. So then to do this, you just have to do 18. Oops. I'm just going to write the V. So V is equal to length times the breadth, which is 14, times by the height. I'm not going to use the calculator here. So 18 times 14 times 12. What's this? 3024. Hey. 3024. Now write the unit, which is centimeters cubed. So this should be quite straightforward. Now I'm not going to go through all of these because they're all basically the same thing. The only thing you have to pay attention to is that in some of these questions, it's given to you as millimeters. So your answer should be in millimeters cubed. Okay. If it's meters, you write meters cubed. If it's centimeters, you write centimeters cubed. All right. Now let's get into some hard questions. So these questions here are just going to be the same. You just plug in the numbers, multiply them together, you get the volume. Now I'm going to do C. So how do you do C? Calculate the unknown dimension for each rectangular prism. So they give you the volume, they give you the length, they give you the height. Now they ask you for the breadth. Okay. So first of all, with these questions, so I'm just going to do one first. Write down the formula. Volume is equal to length times the breadth times the height, right? And then now you substitute the numbers. So what's the volume here? 720 is equal to, what's the length? 15 times the breadth. Oh, they don't give you the breadth, so times B times by the what? Height, which is 6. Okay, now we have to solve for B. Now we know this is just going to be 720. Now what is 15 times B times 6? Well, it doesn't really matter which order you do this by, so I'm just going to do 15 times 6 first. 15 times 6 is 90. 90 times B is 90B. And how do we solve for B? We can divide both sides by 90, right? So then what do we have? We have 8 is equal to B. Now once you get to this step, then you answer the question. So breadth is equal to what? 8 centimeters. Okay. So this should be quite straightforward. I mean, the only difference between question C and question B is question B asks you to find the volume. Question C asks you to find the breadth. So that's it. All right, let's do one more. All right. So let's do one where it asks you for the height. So let's just do question 6. So volume is equal to length times base times height. So in this case, what's the volume? What is that? 5376. 5376 is equal to length, which is 28, times the breadth, which is 16, times by the height, which we don't know. So then we just simplify this. 5376 is equal to, what's 28 times 16? Well, we can use this guy for help. 28 times 16 is 448, okay? So this is equal to 448 times h, right? Which is 448h. Now, how do we solve for h? We can divide both sides by what? 448. There we go. So what's 5376 divided by 448? Well, we can use this guy again. 5376 divided by 448. We get 12. So 12 is equal to h, right? Because 448h divided by 448 gives you h. So then we can say height is equal to 12 what? Question 6, 12 centimeters. All right. Now let's just take a look at one of these. Now, these are all going to be the same, so I'm just going to pick one. Calculate the volume of each prism in cubic meters. Hint, change all measurements to meters before you multiply. Okay, sure. So let's just take a look at question 12. Right. So write the formula down first. Volume equals to length times base times height. So what does this equal to? So volume is equal to length, which is 2.5, times breadth. Breadth is 80 centimeters. So it says to convert to meters. So how many meters is in 80 centimeters? Remember, to convert from centimeters to meters, you have to divide by 100. Okay, so what's the 80 divided by 100? You get 0.8. So then the breadth is 0.8 meters. And what's the height? The height is also the 80 centimeters. So that means the height is also going to be 0.8 meters. Times everything together, and what do we get? 2.5 times 0.8. Tell you a little trick. Rather than typing 0.8, you can actually just type 0.8, so you don't have to type the 0. You save a lot of time over the course of your life if you do that. You get 1.6 centimeters cubed, right? Alright, so let's just do one more and then we can wrap this up because this exercise is quite straightforward. Question 22. Volume equals to length times breadth times height. So convert everything to meters. So what's the length? 260 centimeters. So to remember, to convert from centimeters to meters, what do you need to do? Divide by 100, right? So what would this be? This would be 2.6. You can use your calculator if you want, but I'm not going to. So the length is going to be 2.6 meters times the breadth, which is, you divide this by 100, right? Because it's 140 centimeters, so it's going to be 1.4 times by the height. 230 centimeters converted to meters divided by 100, so it's 2.3. And what's the answer? Well, that I can't do in my head. So 2.6 times 1.4 times 2.3. What do you get? 8.372 centimeters cubed. Alright, so that's all for this lesson. Hopefully you've learned something new and useful, although I think you probably already know how to do most of these questions without watching the video. But thank you for being patient and listening. I'll see you next time.